Hey friends, we've had an eventful week over here, and so I wanted to get on and chat a little bit, maybe as much for me as for you. Sometimes it's good to just talk through things, and as you process, just share. So that's my plan. First off, I wanted to give you an update on the house stuff. Really, there's not a lot to update you on, which is good news. We're just in the waiting phase, just waiting for like the underwriters and the loan to all, officially go through. We still have about 2 weeks until closing should happen. So we're still camping in the house, just keeping things minimal, jumping through all the hoops, every time something new comes to sign or whatever. But some other stuff has been going on. So first off, like you can tell from the title of the video, the theme of the week has been death, sadly, but death is a part of life, so we're embracing it and learning from it. The first thing is my grandma died. She was my last living grandparent. She died, it was 1 week ago yesterday on a Tuesday, and we knew it was coming. She was 96 years old, and she had fallen and broken her hip about, maybe a month ago, and she just started deteriorating really fast after that. But she lived an incredible life, and she was the grandparent who, every time I saw her, it was like she was just the same as ever, and I thought she was just going to keep on living forever. That's what it felt like, And I'd see her, and she'd still have her mental faculties, and she just she had her little routine, and she was just going along. I said she was my last living grandparent, and she was my last real grandparent, but she was married to my step grandpa, who is still alive now. So he survived her. He's a bit younger than she was, so he's still alive, which that was very hard. He took it very hard. They were married for 41 years, and they were inseparable. So that was hard to see him going through all of that, but it had been his goal to outlive her and to take care of her until she died, and he definitely did that. He was the most attentive and just an amazing husband and took care of her, until the very end. So of course with COVID, we weren't able to have like a big service, but we did get to go to the funeral home and have a viewing of the body. That happened this past Friday. And then on Saturday, we had a graveside service. She was cremated, but they still buried the urn in a graveyard, and she'll have a headstone and everything. So we were able to have a family graveside service, which was really nice. And I already knew that she was an amazing woman, and always loved her and always felt like I wanted to be like her. But then just listening to everyone share memories and thinking, through it all after they've passed, it just brings it up, so vividly. And I just wanted to share a little bit about her with you guys. And the main reason is because if you guys enjoy my videos and my family and the things that I share, you really have her to thank a lot, because she was a huge inspiration to me in cooking. She was the grandma who always had a feast ready for us when we came. And there were 6 kids in my family. There are still 6 kids in my family. And so when we came over, it was a big crowd, and she, would pull out all the stops. She would make the most delicious fried chicken. She would, always from scratch, always. And on Easter, and then also on Thanksgiving, since it was a split family, we would go to my grandma's house for breakfast on Thanksgiving, and then go to my grandpa's house for lunch. And she would make the most incredible Thanksgiving morning breakfast of these casseroles, like egg casseroles. And it was just the kind of grandma's house where you always made sure to arrive hungry, because you knew you were going to leave absolutely stuffed. She was Danish, and so we had a lot of Danish traditions, and I've shared some of the recipes that are inspired by our Danish traditions, like the apple and prune stuffed spare ribs that we always have on Christmas Eve. It's like if I smell those foods, there's like Danish red cabbage that's like got vinegar, and it's like sweet and sour cabbage. and then the pork spare ribs with the prunes and apples. If I smell those, it's like I'm transported back to grandma's house. So definitely I associate her with food a huge amount, but she was such a lover of art. That's what my aunt said at the funeral, where she was just impressed with how much she loved all different kinds of art. And cooking was definitely one of them, but she was also a musician. She played the piano and she sang. She was a choir director in her church years and years ago. She absolutely loved nature. She and my grandpa would go hiking and camping all the time up until they weren't able to anymore. They would go to all different national parks. They would take us kids camping like one at a time for a weekend, which was really special. Like my brother said at the funeral, when you're one of 6 kids and you get singled out to go do something special, like go camping with grandma and grandpa for the weekend, it's extremely exciting and a very special time. So they would do that with us. She just loved being in nature, and she was not afraid, to get dirty, to go camping, that kind of thing. And then she was also an incredible gardener. And that's something that I hope that I can channel a little bit as we move into our new homestead. She just had the most incredible garden, and she was constantly like trying new things and, refining her process. And every time we'd go over there in the summer, we would come home with, a bucket of tomatoes. The other thing is that she taught me how to crochet. She and my mom both taught me how to crochet, and she loved to crochet. She had all kinds of, Afghans and stuff at her house and ones that we had. And she got to the point where she didn't need any more Afghans in her house. And, she'd given them away to all the family members. So she started crocheting them. I'll have to look into it to remember, because it was a while ago that I heard about it. Something like the Linus Project, blankies. I think it was for kids maybe in foster care or something like that. If I can find information on that organization, I'll put it down below. But she would just crochet and crochet and crochet these blankets and send them off to this organization that used them for good. And some of you guys that have followed me for a while might remember that I used to have a business crocheting hats. I got on Etsy right after Etsy became a thing and sold beanies, a lot for kids, although I sold them for adults as well. But I created my own patterns and sold tons and tons of beanies, and it was a huge help financially to our family at that time. And so I directly attribute that to my grandma teaching me how to crochet way back when I was maybe like 6 or 7. I first started, and I would just chain, just have a ball of yarn, and I would chain until I had a ball of crochet chain, and then gradually added on from there. She also loved to read. She wrote. She was just kind of a jack of all trades, or Jill of all trades. Is that a thing? But what everyone kept talking about was that she never sought the spotlight. She really just kept her head down and just worked hard on whatever it was that she was doing. And she did so many things, but everything she did, she just did well. So that was definitely a huge inspiration to me, and I just hope that I can follow in her footsteps. So that was this past weekend, and my dad came into town from Texas, and so I spent a lot of time with my dad and then other members of my family who are around. And so just so many conversations, just, bringing up all kinds of things, remembering and just working through all of this stuff, from the past and all of the feelings that it brings along. It's just been an emotional week, but also a very good week. So that was this past weekend. Today is Wednesday, and yesterday we had something else happen that was quite extraordinary. It was a nice day, and the kids had played outside for like the early afternoon. At our current house, the one that we're in the process of selling, there's a flag lot or flag lots behind us. There's a driveway right next to our house that goes back behind, and there's 3 houses back there. One of them is a really big house that's like the old farmhouse from way back in the day when this was all an orchard, and then the orchard got divided up into other lots. But so there's the big farmhouse back there, and it's actually a really big property. And then there's another house back behind us that's separate. And then there's a tiny house that is part of the big house's property. So it's kind of complicated. So when we moved in, there was a lady living in the house behind us that was quite old. She was in her late 80s, I think. And probably 8 years ago, she passed away. And that house has been empty ever since. But the little house is kind of like a little shack that is part of the big house's property. This lady's either son or grandson, we never quite knew for sure, lived there. And he really kept to himself. He was in his late 60s. We talked to him a couple of times, but honestly, neither time was very pleasant. And yesterday, after the kids came in from playing outside, we were in the house for a little while. They were watching a movie, and all of a sudden we see fire truck and ambulance come in front of our house, and come to find out he had had a heart attack on the driveway, right, like practically in our backyard. He was raking and doing yard work on the driveway. So if you go out of our deck, you could just see him just right there on the driveway, right on the side of our yard. And he had had a heart attack, and someone was driving by and saw him laying there and called the ambulance. I feel terrible that we didn't see, because he was just right there. And it was just a little bit ago that the kids were out. Anyways, so the firemen and the paramedics, they worked on him for a long time, like 30 minutes, but he did not make it. He passed away right there, almost in our backyard. And it was a little strange. The medical examiner took a long time to get here, so he probably died at around 3 or 4 p.m., and the fire truck and the ambulance left after they got everything cleaned up. And there was just a police officer, that stayed here. But it was probably like 4 hours that his body was laying. Of course, it was covered, which is good. That he was laying there on the asphalt. So like the police officer and the fireman came and talked to me and talked to some of the other neighbors, trying to find out if there's any family or anything. And as far as we can tell, there's just not a single soul. And it was just such a contrast to watching after my grandma died and everyone talking about her and remembering her and loving her and missing her, and just the life that she had led and the legacy that she had led. And then the contrast to this man who, I don't know anything about his life, but it seemed like he had been through a lot, and he was not interested in making connections with people, and he was alone. And I don't know that there will be anybody to claim the body or anything like that. So we did our best to honor him and to, respect him. We talked a lot with the kids about giving people dignity, not gawking at, when they don't have any dignity lying there, and just tried to be respectful, tried to remember him. It was a life that was important, and I'm sure, I don't know about him, but there's got to be somebody that loved him, and, an impact that he's made, and just to have somebody to remember that just is important. So anyways, all that to say, it has been an emotional week, highs and lows and everything in between, but it's been good. Like I said at the beginning, death is a part of life, and it's something that oftentimes we're very insulated from, especially here in America, where anything related to death is, taken away and sanitized. And so when you confront it, it's hard, but it's also very good. Good to remember the fragility of life, so that you can, do the best with the life that you have, or you can be thankful for that. Also, I find it important to just take stock and think about the legacy that I'm leaving, and the people around me that I want to have an impact. I want to love in a way that leaves something after I'm gone. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys and let you know where I'm at. And like I said, it does help to talk it through and share, and it helps me process. So if you made it to the end of this video, thank you for listening. And I guess I'll just see you again in the next video.